Hi everyone, Friday, October 14th. Welcome to Three Things with Spyglass Lending. Thank you for joining me. What do we do here? We delve a little bit deeper into what's going on in the real estate market, the economy, behind the scenes in the mortgage industry. A little bit more than the usual fluff that you hear or the simple headlines. We're delving a little bit deeper. Let's get right to it. Number one on the board, the boo birds are crowing. I mean, that is everybody. The largest investors in the world, all the way down to the chief economists across the board. And we're going to talk about one in just a moment. They are all out now in full effect saying, guess what? It doesn't look good. Prepare, prepare, prepare. We've been talking about that on this exact sequence for the past couple of weeks. It's not necessarily about expecting the worst. It's about preparing for the worst at this point. Preparing for the worst in the housing market, preparing for the worst with interest rates, and specifically, unfortunately, preparing for the worst on what's going to happen if we enter into a recession. Whether that is ultimately a soft landing, and we're all hoping for it, but we have to prepare for the fact that it may be a lot worse than that by the time we hit summer to the end of last year. And that brings us to number two on the board, our man, Lawrence Yun at the NAR. Well, what is the NAR? The National Association of Realtors. He is their chief economist. A really well-respected individual, somebody I really like to follow and pay attention to what he's saying, a very big pragmatist, and he tells it like it is. And there's a couple of things now that he's come out and said. Number one is the resistance to the 30-year mortgage. Well, what does that mean? That means we've crossed a threshold. We've hit right around 7%. We've actually touched it and touched over it before it fell back down. Now we're right there again, unfortunately. We're right around 7%. And he expects once we are fully in that 7% range, the next leg up is going to be 8.5%. Think about that for a second and expect it. Again, prepare for it. And it's something that if you go back and looked just a few months ago, I said between 8 and 10% is where we're going to land on this. A lot of people said, no way. Yeah, it's very likely that it's going to end up there, and very likely we're going to cross that 7% threshold in the next couple of weeks, months, settle in there, and the next leg up is 8.5%. And again, the chief economist is saying that. What else is he saying? He's saying something very important. What is he seeing for 2023 for home growth? 0%. Well, what does that mean exactly? It means that in half of metropolitan areas in this country, you're still going to expect actually to see some growth in sales. But in the other half, you're going to see negative. You're going to see a major decline because it's got to balance somewhere. And it's not to say that he's 100% right at his 0% prediction. It might be negative across the board on average, but 0% would tell you 50%. Some areas are going to go up and 50% are not going to go up. Well, that brings us to number 3 on the board. California Dreamin, right? This is the place for supposedly living the American dream. A lot of people have come to this state with the expectation that things are going to be rosy, sunny all the time, and things are good. But what does he say about California? Unfortunately, this really sits on the fence, the side of the fence where you're going to see the prices decline. And not only that, his prediction is that it's going to be the worst state in the country for decline, that ultimately you're going to see the prices go down. And again, we've talked about this too. Location, location, location. You're still seeing bidding wars as of now. You're still seeing cash buyers popping out of the woodwork for really good inventory. Well, what does that mean? What is good inventory? Hey, middle of the block, on a cul-de-sac, desirable home, great school district, maybe just completely redone. The rest of the stuff that's out here, and I see it every day, and I talk to realtors every day, unfortunately, you're already seeing the decline in prices and now expected a much bigger dip. And again, not to say that the dip is going to be 30, 40, 50%, not to say that there's going to be some landslide, runaway, bloodbath going on in the market, but the expectation is, and we've talked about it now, and all of us are preparing for the idea that all that pandemic equity that got built up over the 2 years that unfortunately none of us really earned, that's more than likely going to go away, right? Just the pandemic equity alone, that kind of brings us back to stasis. And once we're there, how far down after we lose that equity are we going to go past what it was in 2019, early 2020? What are the levels? And how much further past are we going to go, especially here in California? It bears watching. It bears preparing for. Thank you very much for joining me. This has been Three Things with Spyglass Lending. We'll do it all again next Friday.